Good morning, welcome back to the American Muscle Car Museum here in beautiful Melbourne, Florida. This morning out of the museum we have out for you one of my favorites in a Porsche 959. This example is a 1988 in beautiful Guards red exterior with a dark gray tri-tone interior. The Porsche 959 history starts back in the early 80s where Porsche wanted to compete in a very popular and competitive Group B rally class. Cars that would race in the Group B during this period would be the Audi Quattro. Ford had their RS 200, so to be competitive they needed to develop an all-wheel drive system. While working on the 959, development was slower than what they anticipated. So to test some of the advancements that they were working on, they fitted existing 911s with the all-wheel drive system from the forthcoming 959. 3 of these cars were entered in the 1984 Porsche Dakar Rally that didn't require homologation or anything, and they allowed for experimental cars like this to compete. In 1985, the production version debuted at the Frankfurt Motor Show, and again, Porsche entered the Paris-Dakar Rally. This year, the cars were a little bit more advanced, however, they weren't so fortunate, with all 3 cars failing to complete the race. With continual production delays, the road-going cars wouldn't be ready for 1986, and thus wouldn't be allowed to race in 1986 Group B rally racing, moving Porsche's involvement back in Group B another year. Again, they entered 3 cars in the Paris-Dakar Rally, now using the sequential twin-turbocharged 400 horsepower engine. Over the 14,000 kilometer race that lasted 22 days, 67 of the 488 participants finished, with Porsche taking 1st, 2nd, and 6th. Also during this time, Porsche would create the 961, only one of them, and this car would go on to compete in Le Mans, where it won its class and placed 7th overall in its first year. However, in the second year, in 1987, the same car was used, and the driver missed a shift, going from 6th into 2nd, spinning out, causing the car to catch fire. So it didn't finish. However, this car was restored and is now on display in the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart. At the 1986 Rally Portugal, a Ford RS 200 crashed into a crowd of people while trying to avoid a spectator, killing 2 children and a woman and injuring over 30 people. All of the factory teams that were racing there, Audi, Austin Rover, Ford, Lancia, Volkswagen, Peugeot, they all got together and actually withdrew from the race event after race officials refused to stop it. Part of the problem was these stretches were so long, there were so many spectators, the cars were going incredibly fast, and they didn't have enough people to patrol and to ensure safety of the spectators and drivers alike. Group B would be ended soon after, so in 1987 there was no Group B for the Porsche 959 to race. All of these technologies developed for rally racing actually made it an amazing road car. When it debuted, it was the fastest car in the world, had a top speed of 198 miles an hour. Car and driver measured the acceleration of this car. 0 to 60 took 3.6 seconds, which was 9/10 of a second faster than any car that they would test in the 1980s. And in fact, it's still modern day fast. That 0 to 60 at 3.6 is also the same 0 to 60 as the current Porsche 911 ST. In period, these cars were incredibly expensive and were never intended to be sold to the US market. With the exchange rates being unfavorable from the Deutschmark to the US dollar, Porsche would have actually lost a couple $100,000 on each one of these cars sold. If converted from European prices to American in period, it would have been about $250,000, which at the time was 4 911 turbo coupes or 50 1987 Chevrolet Chevette 3-doors. Since the model did not have NHTSA approval, the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, or EPA approval, Environmental Protection Agency, the vehicle was denied entry into the United States and couldn't be driven on US roads. Famously, in fact, Bill Gates had a Porsche 959 that was stuck in the Oakland, California US Customs Service for over 10 years until the show and display law was passed in August of 1999. This law allows historically or technologically significant vehicles to be imported into the United States, even though they were never sold new here. However, they do have a limitation of 2,500 miles a year, and not all cars would qualify. Today, this car would meet the 25-year exemption rule due to age and wouldn't have to have these special show and display laws to be imported. That's why people can import little small K vans and K cars and stuff from Japan. They were never sold here, but now that they're 25 years old, they're exempt from all the requirements needed and can be driven on our roads. While it does look similar to the contemporary 911, it actually shares very little. With a focus on lightweight, it uses Kevlar and aluminum construction. The wheels are a magnesium hollow spoke center lock wheel. Given the high speeds this car can attain, they were concerned with tire blowouts. So this was the first car to feature run flat tires produced by Bridgestone, which are actually still available, surprisingly, and was also one of the first supercars to use tire pressure monitor systems. The engine is in the back and is a 2.85 liter twin turbocharged flat six engine. It makes a stated 444 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. The transmission used in this is actually a 6-speed manual. It's a 5-speed labeled gearbox, but the first gear is a G gear or a hill gear, which is a really low ratio. Under hard acceleration, as much as 80% of the power can be sent to the rear wheels. Up front, they have 235 45 17s, and in the back, a 255 40 17. So not a massive tire, but it does get the power down and accelerates incredibly quick. Today, these are some of the most desirable Porsches ever made. With only 337 of these built, they routinely sell between $1.5 and $2.5 million. A heavily damaged 959 famously sold at the Mecum Pebble Beach auction in August of 2018 for over $450,000. That car was actually in a trailer that was in an accident, and they had a pretty gruesome video of it still driving around even in that damaged state, which was pretty impressive. That car was purchased and now since has been restored. Our 1988 959 doesn't have anything like that in its past. It's a beautiful Guards Red example. It was originally purchased new in Europe and then spent time in a Japanese car collection, later being imported to the United States in 2015. We got this car a couple of years ago and it's been in the museum ever since. Today, this car has just a little over 1,300 original kilometers, or 800 miles or so. We have the factory books, the factory toolkit, the Porsche certificate of authenticity. It has its numbers matching drivetrain and is an outstanding example of a Porsche 959. For more on this and all the other cars in the museum collection, please head on over to the AmericanMuscleCarMuseum.com website, our Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube channels. We hope you enjoyed taking a closer look at this Porsche 959, and thanks for watching.